And I thought we would recap a little bit of the lessons we've learned here on the podcast about technology and its impact on experience and service. Now, one of the big themes we've seen, and this is not a new theme, but it's really one that seems to grow in importance every year, and it's the idea of adapting to channel choice and particularly understanding where the trends are. So we interviewed as episode, I'm going to try to use the episode numbers, so if you want to go back and listen to something, you can. Episode 237 with Peter Friedman of LiveWorld, and also episode 336 with Joshua March of Conversocial. And both of those gentlemen actually work with companies that use messaging, right? They use messaging for social. They're watching social media migrate to messaging, to thinking about where customers are, not just being, on Facebook, but using Facebook messaging to interact with companies. And they found some really interesting things. There were some stats that came out of these episodes. One thing, if a company promotes messaging, like one of the clients did, over 60% of all the service volume moved to the messaging, and that was with Facebook messaging. So if you've got Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter DM, all these types of things that your customers want to interact with you on, are you using them, and are you set up to scale using them? So one of the things we've seen here is the incredible growth in this side of the technological discussion, which is in fall 2018, they'd done 8 billion messages every month between brands and consumers on Facebook Messenger. But here's the thing. Only a year earlier, it was 2 billion. It had 4x'd in a year. So when looking at messaging, when we talk about channel choice, omni-channel, all that good stuff, really one of the big trend lines is looking at messaging and trying to figure out which messaging platforms are going to be more relevant. And messaging is really interesting because it can be more efficient, right? There's not that real-time expectation of a conversation or a chat. It's asynchronous would be the fancy word to use. And there's some advantages to that from a standpoint of scaling resources and scaling agents. So messaging is really interesting. One of the other big topics, and I swear, I feel like I've been talking about this all year already, and it's only Q1. It's probably Q2 when you hear this. And that is balancing the bots, right? Balancing human versus AI. I just did a Twitter chat on this. It is a huge discussion. It's figuring out where the AI actually is effective up to. What's the line it's effective that it gets to? And then when do you have to get over to the humans? And one, how do you know how to make that transition? How do you actually make the transition itself? And what does that look like? And what does the customer experience look like when you do that? Now, AI is coming, and more importantly, automation's coming, and there's no way really around it. So I think it's incumbent on all of us, and especially large organizations that are dealing with this now, not tomorrow, to really think about the role the automation has in the experience and what's the balancing act between that automation and human interaction, and how can it create the most effective